Welcome back. Time for Thinking Real Estate. ThinkingRealEstate.com. It's been a long morning. Good morning.
It has?
Yeah.
What time do you get here?
About 3:30 today.
Okay, 3:30 only comes once a day for me.
Yeah.
It's not in the morning, I can guarantee you that. What about you, Bill?
It just depends upon the day. But here's the shout out of the day. This one's to Dennis and to Jimmy at the Country Club at Jackson, who I promised I would give a shout out last week, and I forgot completely. So guys, I apologize. Club opens tomorrow, so I know you guys are very busy today. Anyway, top of the morning to you.
And my shout out goes to Mary Madalena, the mother of the infamous Steve Madalena, who we've given shout out before too.
Okay.
So apparently she listens to you all the time. And she
Thank you,
thinks
Mary.
Jackie sounds brilliant on the radio.
There you go.
She's absolutely right. So, what do you want to talk about?
Do you have new glasses? Or?
I do. Do
No.
you like them?
They're unique. Very unique.
She looks like she ought to be tying balloons for kids.
That's that commercial in the
at
morning.
a birthday party.
Make me a clown or make me a poodle. I finally got that one.
Yeah, well, your glasses certainly fit in with that.
Green, orange, and purple.
Yeah, if people want to see it, they could go to the website
Yeah.
and view this video later. ThinkingRealEstate.com.
In
How's
color.
that for a teaser?
There you go.
All right, well, I've been out of the office the last 2 days because I've been teaching buyer agency in Kalamazoo. So there's quite a few smarter realtors over in Kalamazoo right now. Just saying.
What did you teach them?
How to be a phenomenal buyer's agent for people.
No. Okay.
There you have it.
Do you have some tips?
There's so many.
Really?
I mean,
You'd have to shoot me?
yeah. Well, I mean,
It's a 2-day class.
yeah, it's a 2-day class, so I don't think we could handle it in a few minutes. Looking for a
Just
good
checking.
buyer's agent, call me, I teach it.
Just checking. There you go.
So last week we started talking about the transitions in families, and we talked about the disasters that might happen, financial disasters. So let's talk about windfalls this time. So if I happen to sell my house,
Could you do me a favor, not look at me with those glasses on? I mean, Greg, you agree it's sort of a frightening thing?
Like I said,
it's my
they're
personality.
unusual.
Yeah, I'm going to have to avert my eyes here.
They're
Poor
unique.
thing.
Yeah. Yikes.
So let's talk about windfalls. What happens if I make $100,000 on my investment that I sold?
Leave for Costa Rica.
Really?
Sure. Cost of living is inexpensive. Thailand, inexpensive. Sure. Become an expat.
Mutual bonds.
All right, show's over. I mean,
Hey, there was a guy actually I saw on the news yesterday, part of the Winans family, who apparently had some good investments going. If you caught the news yesterday.
Well, yeah.
Hey.
13 years worth of good investments. I think he got 13 or 14.
Is that what he got?
14 years in
Yeah.
a holding cell.
Yeah. Well, he'll have time to reflect.
Yeah.
he'll get out on good behavior early, don't you think? And is it, what kind of holding cell is it going to be? Is it one that overlooks a pond, or?
Well, it's a white collar crime, so I don't know where they're sending him, but it's probably like the country club.
Right.
Yeah.
Or like that facility that the state has out on Waterloo Road.
But the bit of news that does fit in with real estate is the appointment of Viviano over in Detroit area to the vacated seat by the Supreme Court Justice who pled guilty to the federal mortgage fraud. So and we had talked about that before, so now there is somebody filling that particular vacancy.
Right. We get all the news in here. Viviano, what was this? I forgot his first name already.
I've forgotten as well. I don't remember. I didn't really. I just don't know. I just know that he was the chief judge for the Macomb Circuit Court.
Yeah.
So 41 years old, filling that vacancy. But the way it ties in with real estate is Justice Hathaway, I think it was, who was resigned as a result of the pleading guilty to mortgage fraud. A good lesson, and I actually go through this from time to time with clients who are thinking about a short sale or giving a deed in lieu of foreclosure, and they're about to sign, or they're asked to sign an affidavit, and occasionally what they're being asked to sign isn't true. And I always advise them, look, be very careful about what you're signing here. You do not want to commit a fraud on the bank in terms of what you're representing of your assets, your collectability, etc. So anyway, that's the downside. You wanted to talk about windfalls today and what to do with them?
Any prediction on the judge, how long she'll be locked up?
No clue. I don't know enough about what they're doing in terms of penalties. I do know that
Wasn't the maximum bill
yeah,
3 years?
I don't know what the maximum is on
Okay.
that. I just don't. Like I said, the only criminal law I do these days is environmental criminal law, so I don't get involved in that white collar stuff. But I do remember
Wasn't
that
environmental
I do remember
criminal law
that the
kind of white
judge,
collar?
the judge who took the plea was had very strong words to say about someone who is in that kind of position, who abused the public trust, is the best way to say it, I think. And so I suspect that she either has been made an example
She'll be
of.
out by Christmas. That's my prediction.
I don't think so.
don't think so?
No, I don't think so. I think they'll probably make an example out of her.
Okay.
Yeah, you have to, when you put people in those kinds of positions, you expect something even higher in terms of
Is that true with Kwame Kilpatrick?
I think the same is true there, that we expect the higher duty from people who are put in positions of public trust, whether it's mayor, etc.
Jury's been out 7 days.
But they expected the jury to be out at least 2 weeks.
Okay.
There are 41 counts, I think, and nothing easy about trying to address each of those counts. So I don't think anybody's surprised by that.
ThinkingRealEstate.com.
If you have a question, call 787
sure.
3397. 787-3397.
If you have a legitimate real estate question.
Or if you have a question you're fearful of calling in, you can always email me at laura@7803800.com.
But the question won't get answered till next week because you don't have your computer with you.
It will
That's
get
fine.
answered later today.
Okay.
Jeez. I'm not a lawyer, so I answer quickly.
So what was that topic?
Real estate and financial windfalls. So
Windfall.
let's say
Okay.
I make a profit on my investment property that I have.
Mm-hmm.
What are my options? Do I just pay tax on it, capital gain tax?
Well, if it's investment property, why don't you do a 1031 exchange?
So what does that entail?
You use Section 1031 of the Internal Revenue Code and you make an exchange for other property. What you do is you fall within the provisions of Internal Revenue Code that allow you to exchange your existing, to take the profits from the existing property and invest them in a substitute property and defer the capital gains. You don't eliminate the capital gains, you simply defer the capital gains until ultimately you no longer do an exchange. You can continue to do exchanges for really indefinitely, but at
Till I
some
die,
point.
and then what happens with it if I do it until I die?
Well, that is one way to avoid capital gains taxes, is you can die and you get what's called the stepped-up basis. So you could continue to do it and do it and do it until you died, and the last property would get the stepped-up basis. That's correct.
And then the estate pays the tax?
No, there's
Right.
no capital gains tax.
Okay.
You pay estate tax, but you don't pay capital gains tax.
Okay. And can I, if I have my property on the market now, can I start picking those properties that I'm going to exchange it for? Or do I have to wait until I know how much money I need to?
No, you can start. You're looking for the properties. You have, I think it's 45 days. Again, you're sort of jumping me with this subject today, and I haven't taught 1031 in a while, but my recollection is I have 45 days in which to designate. I can designate up to 3 properties, as I recall, without limit in terms of what the price is of each of those. If I go over 3, and now I'm limited to some percentage of the sale price of the existing property. Again, I'd have to revisit the statute and the regulations. But if you're going to do a 1031, the first thing you do is you contact a lawyer, coordinate with the lawyer and with the title company so that you make certain that you meet the time restraints or constraints of the 1031. And once you designate your property, my recollection is you've got 6 months in which to reinvest the proceeds, but you can't touch the proceeds. The proceeds have to be placed with what's known as a qualified intermediary. There are a whole bunch of steps you have to go through. You can't simply decide at the last moment, I want to do the exchange. And we also build into the purchase agreement on the sale of the property the fact that the purchaser will cooperate with the seller with respect to whatever is necessary to qualify the 1031.
If I have a mortgage on the property that I sold and just make the profit on it, and I do a 1031 exchange, do I have to have the new properties have a mortgage on them?
No, you just have to invest the proceeds of the existing property into the new one to the extent that you don't, to the extent that the property, which is the new property or the replacement property, is less than what you sold, you will pay capital gains tax, or you may pay capital gains tax on a pro rata portion of your capital gain. Please understand that for the last 6 years, 1031 has been sort of non-existent because capital gains were few and far between. Most people had capital losses, long-term capital losses, so they didn't take advantage of a 1031. Now that we're seeing property values increase, we'll start seeing more 1031s.
So you're investing in the other property just to avoid taxes?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, yeah, not just to avoid taxes, but the investment that you've got in your existing property, let's say you've owned for 10 or 15 years, you now want to leverage it into another property to make more money from the new investment property. So, but in order to get the new property, you need to sell the existing one. So you're simply trading up in most circumstances. You're simply increasing your investment portfolio by not necessarily adding to the number of properties that you have, but rather by upgrading the type of investment property or the value of the investment property. That's what's going on.
Well, okay, the second property, you have $100,000 left after the property you want to invest in.
I'm going to pay capital gains. To the extent that I have cash proceeds remaining after the investment in the replacement property, I'm going to pay capital.
And I can only do 3 properties?
No, that's just designating.
Oh, okay.
This just has
All
to do with you have to pick the properties. You have a certain period of time after the sale of the existing property. As I say, I think it's 45 days. And then, as I recall, it's 6 months to reinvest the proceeds. But the most important thing is you can't touch those proceeds. You have to arrange with the title company or other qualified intermediary that they will hold, or it will hold, those monies. You can't touch them, and they will be there when you close on the replacement property.
Can you use it to upgrade the second property?
Yes, you can take the monies, invest in the new property, and make improvements into the new property. Again, you got to fall within the guidelines. The improvements have to be made within a certain period of time. Again, you can't touch the proceeds. Stay with a qualified intermediary. I apologize. I didn't review the 1031 regs before coming in here, but that's about as good as I can do for you.
You've always told me that you can talk about anything whether you know it or not.
Yeah, I can, but this is a radio show. We would like to be accurate in what we're the information
Well, you only
we're
have
disseminating.
30 minutes, so it's not we're not
Well,
asking
yeah,
for extreme detail, just a
yeah, but it's there. It's
brushstroke of it.
Yeah, you can take advantage of it. It applies only to property held for trade, for use in trade or investment. Does not apply to a residence.
Okay.
But we don't worry about residential property because we have the exemption for capital gains with respect to my principal residence. So,
Can I take the money and invest it in a current property? Let's say I have a commercial property now that needs a complete overhaul, renovation,
I don't think
remake.
so. I don't think so. You already own the property, so it's not a replacement property. I don't believe the 1031 applies in that circumstance. Again, I'd have to go back and look at the statute, but really I'm acquiring a new property. To the extent I'm improving the new property, I think 1031 does apply, but to an existing property, I do not believe it does. But maybe there's some tax lawyer or tax expert sitting out there listening to the radio show that knows the answer to that question.
What about our principal residence? What's the capital gains exemptions?
Isn't it currently $250,000 for an individual, $500,000 for a married couple? I think that's what it is.
Yes.
And
I just was testing you.
Very good. That's always good in a relationship. Testing your
Yeah,
spouse.
you got an A. Any other type of windfalls in real estate that we need to or that we should know about when it comes to extra money and what we can do with it?
Yeah, apart from 1031, if I've got money that I want to invest in real estate, first and foremost is, do I want to invest in a property that I'm going to manage myself, or am I going to invest in a real estate investment trust or some other vehicle that's being managed for me? Obviously, if the investment is being managed for me by somebody else, they're taking a fee out of it. If I manage it myself, I'm not paying anybody else a fee. However, I've got to be aware of what the management difficulties are. Look, I represent landlords. We're landlords. We know that we get calls at all times of the day and night with respect to issues, problems. Sometimes you have problem tenants. Sometimes you have multifamily properties. You've got a problem tenant that's causing issues or difficulties for other tenants. I mean, you have to be prepared to do the maintenance and the management. And within the city of Jackson, as you well know, with the increase in inspections and inspectors and enforcement of the code, you have to be prepared as a landlord to maintain your property up to whatever the code requirements may be.
And now we have the new garbage ordinance on the voting opportunity.
I'm not sure
On
why,
the table.
I'm not sure why that's a big issue, by the way. I mean, most municipalities, of which I'm aware, the municipality either has its own employees. You know, Detroit, for example, right now is going through this issue. The garbage haulers, it's the city employees themselves.
Right.
And the debate is whether or not, if an emergency financial manager is appointed, one of the things they'll look at is privatization. In Jackson, as I understand it, there isn't any sort of city-operated or city oversight for waste haulers, and you have 17 waste haulers in the city of Jackson operating right now. I mean, just on an economic basis, that seems a little bit out of sorts with what most municipalities are doing. So what's Jackson looking at, privatization or public employees?
Hiring one garbage hauler.
Not hiring, contracting.
Sorry,
So it's privatization.
Privatization, that contractor will bill the households individual and be responsible for collection.
Yeah, I mean, from an investment point of view, if I'm buying an investment property, I would prefer that there be a single waste hauler, whether it's private or public operated, simply because I'm concerned that my neighbor may not contract with a trash hauler, and so their properties now are they're unkempt, or there's trash lying around, that sort of thing. So
Why are we doing that, Laura?
The city's spending, I think the number's $285,000 or $385,000 a year picking up garbage of other people's that we cannot bill back. And like Bill said, there's so many municipalities. There's over, the last count was over 200, I think 240 municipalities in the state that have single hauler trash. Our little place up in Tawas City, poor little community, has it. We pay it monthly to the city, so, and we don't even use it. I don't know. It assures that our community is cleaner.
What about the cost?
Cost should be about half for. I shouldn't say that. Cost should be a lot less for property owners than what they're paying now. Now, there's always going to be people like Bill and I who have a commercial dumpster for our office building, and we live right next door to it. So we obviously use that for our trash. It's going to cost us more money because we'll have to have it on our property, and there'll be some exceptions to the rule, but for the most part, it will cost some people more, but the majority of people it will cost a lot less.
yeah, personally, from my perspective, even though it may cost us individually more because of the number of properties we have, I'm still in favor of it simply because I believe it will add to the aesthetics of the community, which will enhance the value of our property.
It's going to be easier on the roads. You think about 2 or 3 or 4 haulers going down a road on a single day, because we have 17 different trash haulers, or plus, because you got all those little guys. That's terrible on our roads. So, anyhow, next week we will talk about something else.
Tell them to come to the neighborhood.
Oh, the neighborhood meetings tonight.
Okay.
One of the topics will be the trash. We'll have detailed information. And the snow parking. It is at 6 o'clock, southeast corner of West Franklin and Southwest Avenue, in the space where I've Been Framed used to be. There's a karate place next door and a jewelry store in that little shopping center. Plenty of parking. Come, 6 o'clock tonight.
6 o'clock tonight. So if you have a question about the garbage or whatever,
Yeah, garbage,
whatever's
no
on your mind
parking,
in that ward.
storm fee, whatever. Come on in.
What ward
I'm
is
here
that?
to listen. That's 4th Ward.
4th Ward.
Right.
Thank you. Thanks, Bill.
My pleasure.